I'm Matthias Williams. I'm a GC in South Florida. I have a state license. The thing we focus on right now are design, build, remodels, typically anywhere from 1,500 square foot to 7,000 square foot design build homes. We also specialize in tenant build outs, which is building a store in a mall. We take an existing space, demolish it down to the guts, and put everything brand new. This would be like for a new Victoria's Secret store, Bath and Body Works store, Lululemon, or any extensive remodeling that needs to be done in those places overnight.
Okay. So now, a little earlier, we touched on you doing the construction cleans and stuff like that with your family, sort of understanding the boots on the ground in the literal sense,
Right.
how the business works. From there, and then deciding at a very young age that at that point you believed architecture was your place, and until you realized that architecture didn't play enough to keep you in the place, or the possibilities there were very limited, at that time. So from there, you sort of keeping in that theme of real estate and building things. You ultimately get your GC license, and when you got the GC license, that is when you went from tell me the journey from the broken water main to $1 million in your 9 months of operation.
So the day I got my license, March 17th, 2005, I got it in the mail. It was like 2:00 in the afternoon. As soon as I got it, I was like ecstatic. I then printed out all these flyers, and I went to Pembroke Pines, near Taft and Nob Hill, in that area. They have all these condos over there with all these old fences back then. And I passed them out to every single one. And we could redo their fences or any other construction stuff they can do. And one couple called me that night. So the very next morning, we were there installing their fence. By 11 o'clock, I was digging the hole, and I hit the water main. And this water main, it costs $1,025 to fence, and I'd only charged them $870 for the whole job.
So you were in the hole on the first
I
day.
was in the hole the first. After 4 hours of business, I was in the hole. I finished it. We finished it in 2 days. It looked great, and then from then on, we went on to do about 40 other.
All as a result of those flyers.
Actually, a result of doing the very first fence. The neighbor saw us do the fence and said, "Hey, can you come do my fence?" And then everybody said, "Hey, can you come do my fence? Can you come do my fence?"
Okay.
And so we started just going fence by fence.
So all word of mouth.
All word of mouth.
Now, at this point, is it just you and Samson? Okay. So you with no crew.
Nope.
You were the crew.
I was the crew. Me, my ex-wife, Bethlehem, her name was Beth, and thus met Beth. And we were at it every single day. We got up at 6 a.m. We got back on home at 9 p.m. at night, tired 6-7 days a week, every single day. And then while we were doing it, I met another lady doing schoolwork down in Miami. And I had worked before as a superintendent doing mold remediation on schools. So I knew how to do work at schools. So I told her, yeah, I could do the mold remediation. So I got my mold license. I got my mold license, my remediation license. It was very easy at that time. And it was very unregulated. In fact, here it is, get it out like it was. So you just took a few classes.
You go to show up, get paid.
Yeah, you can have it. So we got our license, and I started bidding on remodeling schools. Okay. And as soon as I started bidding on remodeling schools, I needed some help. So I go out. Back then, I would just go down to Home Depot and pick up 5 or 6 people from Home Depot and hope things would go well. So I went through like a 2 or 3 months iteration of that,
Just trying to get a crew
together. I found 3 or 4 people that knew what they were doing. I started meeting people, and then once the work started going well, then we started doing more schoolwork. And then I became a superintendent, generally, instead of the hand doing the work. Started a little bit more orchestrating. And then from there, I hired a superintendent, and then I became the project manager. I kept giving myself a raise.
Yeah.
Then I became the project manager. And then as being the project manager, I started managing all the projects as we used to get them. We used to bid the projects, and we would go day and night. I'd work day and night.
So you're running crews almost 24 hours?
Yes, we'd run in 24 hours. And after the first year, we were doing our taxes and we owed like $30,000. And I didn't really understand why I owed any money. I'm like, there's no way we owe any money. He says, no, you've done like $1,040,000 in work. He says, yeah. And I said, oh, okay. I didn't really think about it as anything big. I just thought,
You're just doing the work. Yeah.
we just doing the work. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
And so from then on, I never focused on what our revenue numbers were. I just worked to make money to sort of fuel my life.
Yeah.
I was young, and I was very lucky. Very lucky all the time. All the time, I was like blessed at every single stage. I think I have like an angel.
I believe it.
And no matter what is going on, there's an angel that comes and sets things right for me and provides in that moment of need. It's really amazing.
And that is evidenced by you buying your first place at 19 and then getting up to 22 doors?
24
doors. So walk me through the serendipitous journey of the portfolio here and your spontaneous relocation.
So I was living in Houston, going to school, and I was living in an efficiency. I was living in efficiency. It was about as big as this room right here, a little bit smaller, about this big, and I just had a little mattress on the floor. I had a small bathroom with a shower. And I was living there because I was a missionary. I used to go preaching all the time. And so I had a part-time job for the Census Bureau during the census, doing the census and interpreting for the census. I'd do the census in Spanish and French and English. And that was my job. And that was a job that allowed me to go out preaching during the day and gave me a lot of free time. One night, like 1 o'clock in the morning, there was a lady knocking on the manager's desk of the place where I live. And I asked her what she wanted, and she said she needed a place to stay and that she would like for the manager to see him. And I said, well, he's gone. She says, I just need a place to sleep. And I said, okay, you can sleep on my floor. That's all I got. I need to know her. So she says, okay. I was surprised. She said, okay. So she came and slept on the floor. In the morning, she left. And this went on for like 3 or 4 days, and then she left for a while. And then she came back like a month later. And then she asked if she could stay again. And I said, oh, so she stayed like 3 or 4 days. And I said, what's her name? Because I didn't even know her name at that time. Because my name was Dee Dee. And I said, okay, great. Then she went away. Then like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 months later, I'm playing basketball, can't sleep. And Dee Dee comes up, and Dee Dee says, I'm in town. I came to try to sell my house. And I said, what do you mean, your house? Aren't you homeless? She says, no, I have a house. It's in New Orleans. It's 2 stories, 4,000 square feet. It has a walk-up and a whole apartment upstairs. It would have 2 apartments downstairs. It's zoned for 3 units. It's got a nice garage in the back with a little car in it. And it's just overrun, and I just don't want to go back there. And then me and my young 19-year-old self, I say, I'll buy it from you. And because I said, how much you want it? So she said, I want $10,000. I want $10,000. And I said, 10,000. She said, yes. I said, you know what? I'll buy it from you. And she said, okay. And I said, well, what's the address? It was on Friday night. And I said, I'll buy it from you on Monday. Just give me your number. I'll buy it from you on Monday. I said, give me the address, and I'll contact you on Monday. We'll work it out. I had never bought anything. I didn't know all the things you had to do to buy a house. I just told her I would buy it out.
Yeah.
So she gave me the address, 2702 Upper Line, and bam. The very next morning, I drove to New Orleans.
And how long was that drive?
5 hours. From Houston. No, it's quick. Yeah. I've made that trip so many times. So New Orleans, Houston, New Orleans, I arrive, I see this house, it looks amazing.
It looked just like she
It looks just like she says, it's all worn down, torn down. However, I've been in construction.
So you have my eyes.
I saw it. It was a castle. It was a castle I was looking at. Wow. And it was exactly as he described it, hardwood floors, everything. So I came back on Monday, and I had $5,000, and I borrowed $5,000 from my mom. And we ended up closing the deal within 3 days. I found out that I had to have an agent. I got an agent. I ended up paying him $600 for nothing. And I didn't even know he was my agent until we had gotten through all this thing, and I found out I just paid $600 for somebody doing nothing for me in New Orleans. However, everything worked out great. And the very next day, I moved to New Orleans. I stayed in a hotel for 2 days while I cleaned out the house. I got it appraised. It appraised for $72,000 the very next day.
Just cleaned it out. Now
Cleaned it out. Man, I started living in the bottom and started fixing at the top. I started renting that out within 2 months. About 3 months later, the neighbor, 2 houses down, had an 8-unit place that he says he's tired of living there and he wants to sell it. And I told him, I'd buy it.
Yeah. You see a trend here.
I told him I'd buy it. I had no clue how I was going to get the money for it or not. And I ended up buying it for $35,000. And I got a hard money loan from a guy I found by looking in the newspaper for hard money lenders in Houston. I was going to hard money lenders as a young 19-year-old kid trying to convince somebody to give me this money.
Did you get that one appraised too?
What I ended up doing was I rented out the bottom of the one I was in, and I moved into that one.
And started working on that.
And that was already all rented out.
Oh, so it was
one place for empty.
Gotcha.
So I raised all the rents $100 a pop.
Of course.
Every next day. I raised all the rents $100 a pop the very next day. I moved into the smallest, cheapest, dingiest one and started fixing up the others slowly but surely. Yeah. So that was just within a few months. And in the first year, there were 2 other opportunities that came around just like that.
Yeah, just networking or just people that knew you were.
At that point, I had decided I was going to mini retire. I was making like $5,000 a month. Free and clear cash. Staying in my place.
That's a lot of money.
It was a lot of money. And I didn't really have anything to do. So I got a job at a real estate agency from 8 to 12, where my job was like the secretary, I guess, where I would put in all the properties into the MLS that came in. So my job, any agent that came, they would give me the MLS listing sheet, and I would be the one to put, so I can get to see every single property that came in first to the MLS.
That's awesome.
So I would do this from Monday through Friday for like $12 an hour from 8 to 12. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't work any more than that. From 8 to 12. And
so you're working with, it's almost like you're doing research for your own business.
That's awesome. They ended up firing me from that job. I went to Mexico one day and had so much fun and just stayed for a month. I called them, I said, hey, I'm not going to be in, I'm sick, I won't be in tomorrow. It was a Friday. And I flew to Mexico, and I had the best time ever. I met this woman, and Sunday came, I didn't want to go back home. So I told her, you know what, I'm just going to stay here for another month. And I called them, hey, I got stuck in Mexico, I can't make it back, I'll let you know. And then like 2 months later, I called them, I said, okay, I'm back, can I come back? Hilarious. That's how I started in New Orleans. I was living in New Orleans for 2 years.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we were able to go through that, because part of, obviously you have an amazing journey, do really cool stuff, and I'm sure you guys will see a lot more from Matthias just in stuff we're going to do out in the real world, not just online. But that gives a lot more context to your journey and your level of expertise as we start to get into what one of the big things I want to talk to you about today. And some of the markets, the luxury market, the build-to-rent markets are still very strong. So while the middle class is seeing a crunch, there are still segments of the market that are doing very well. That being said, there are some very interesting changes that have taken place that a lot of people aren't aware of as they should be, and are going to probably have some knock-on effects on a lot of other things as South Florida continues to be South Florida, whether that's from hurricanes coming, whether that's from aging condos or whatever. One of those big changes has been what people are referring to as the 50% rule. So explain what the 50% rule is, sort of in a high level, and how you see that. We'll start with the single family, and then, 'cause I think condos is a bit of a Pandora's box, but let's sort of walk through what it is and how you are seeing that affect investors or development on the residential side right now.
Okay, so the FEMA 50% rule is actually an insurance requirement. So it's been in effect for the last few years. The reason it's even more applicable now is because of the changes that recently happened in July 31st of 2024. So the 50% rule states that if you are remodeling your home and you are remodeling and the value of the remodel exceeds 50% of the value of the structure, then you have to bring the entire structure up to the most recent base flood elevation rules.
And that's the assessed value.
Right. Well, yes. It is the value of the structure, not the land.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. We recently had a client. They bought a home in Victoria Park for about $1.5 million. The actual house value was determined to be $517,000.
Okay.
What that means is they could not do a repair or remodel more than $250,000. Because once they hit the $250,000 mark, then they have to upgrade the home. It wouldn't have mattered if the existing home had been above the base flood elevation. Now, before July 31st, still to this day, their existing home elevation is like 4.05. That means it's 4 feet above sea level. Their current, at that time, FEMA regulation was for 4 feet, which means their home was at the regular height. However, when we went to apply for the permit, the permit lady said the new base flood elevations are coming out, and they're the ones that apply. And so the new base flood elevations that came out for all of Florida that the insurance company has created gave her property and everybody in Victoria Park a minimum of 6.
2 more feet.
So 2 more feet. What that means is if you're a 6, you have to build at 7. You have to build 1 foot above your base flood, your 100-year base flood elevation. So the original intention on buying the home, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, was a standard old home, was to add an addition on the back office, add an addition on the front, and then a remodel. Spend about $500,000 to make it their really forever home. They do. However, now they're faced with having to raise the entire home 2 feet to meet the minimum base flood elevation, which totally eliminated them being able to do a full remodel.
Just because of the cost of raising the house.
Because the cost of raising the house. And just the cost of the remodel could not now exceed $250,000. So now you have to do something under $250,000. Now, we reached a second problem. This home was recently remodeled. The previous person who owned it, bought it, remodeled it in anticipation of selling it, flipping it. When they remodeled it, they put about $100,000 into it. Now, the city of Fort Lauderdale goes back 2 years. Some cities go back 5 years, some people go back 10, some people go back indefinitely. So what that means is they take the cumulative value of the permitted work that goes toward your 50%.
Even if you didn't own the property?
Even if you didn't own the property.
Whoa.
So now their limit is $140,000 because it was just they already had $100,000 going against that $250,000% rule. So that immediately slashed all the possible remodels that they could do. So instead, we ended up converting the garage, raising the roof of the garage, converting it to an office, and converting the front patio space into home space.
Cool. Because they couldn't do the rest.
They could not do the rest because the rest put them over $250,000, which pushed them over the 50%.
So how are the renovations priced? So like when you do these, you have to you're pulling a permit, and then you're providing receipts to the city so they know how much the work costs. How do they value?
The city wants to see the contract with the general contractor,
and that has the price.
And that had the price. So the city
has always been the price. Has that always been the process that the city gets to see how much you're paying for the work?
Now they do. Wow. Now they require it, and you have to upload the contract. When you put on the value and you upload the contract. If they determine that you are lowballing the price, they have minimums already built in. So let's say you're going to remodel a house in Miami. I know this for a fact because we're doing a house in Miami, and we picked the 50% rule, and we're like right on the line. And it's significant because it's the difference between a house that you bought at $1 million selling for $3 million, or a house you bought at $1 million being worth nothing, and you have to tear it all down and build a $10 million house. So it's a big difference. Yeah. So the city determines a minimum of $65 per square foot for remodeling. So even if you say you're getting it for cheaper, they don't care. They say, we know it's going to cost this as a minimum. So they immediately know, hey, you're at 3,000 square feet. This is going to cost $200,000 in structural minimum. That's the minimum limit. We also have minimums for electrical, for plumbing, for HVAC as well, per square foot.
Gotcha.
So if you think you're going to get in there and tell the city, oh man,
I had to put
$25. I did it all by myself. I painted the walls. They value your time the same as they would the contractor's time. And in that number, they include overhead, profit, general conditions, everything.
So it's all wrapped up.
Gotcha. So this is very important for people to know. What is not included is anything exterior.
So like landscaping.
The swimming pool, neighbors, anything you do outside is not included.
Gotcha.
In that calculation.
So now does that mean, and I know this is a loaded question, and we're here on tape, but does that mean, I'm asking the question because I know others are thinking the same thing that I was thinking. Would that mean that there are going to be GCs out here now that are doing work and then they just charge, I did all of this for $65,000, but I charged you, $500,000 for the pool? Are they padding?
Is this possible to put some numbers in the swimming pool?
Yeah, I'm just using the pool as an example.
But tell you, pool's a good spot because no pool costs under $100,000, so you could easily put $200,000 into the pool.
So like with that, a seawall, for example, that would be counted as exterior, right?
Seawall's exterior.
Gotcha.
Oh, seawall's exterior. Yeah. Where the people it'll impact the most are people who inherit their homes, middle-class families who inherit their homes from their middle-class families who have not been able to do a remodel. And they've only been, either their dad has been tinkering with the house for 20, 30 years.
So it's a string of permits.
So maybe he hasn't got any permits. And he's just trying to struggle to keep things going. If the kids get it, they want to do a full remodel. And they go to say, hey, we want to do a full remodel, but now, July 31st, everything went up 2 feet. There are now places in Pompano that have a rating of 15. Yeah, 15. There's lots of places with 8s, 10s, 12s, and people don't even know it. And there are places that are 6s that had 0 before. So, and this just happened July 31st. And if you look at it, it used to be like 20% of the areas used to be in a flood zone. Now like 80%.
So now, and I know this is a question mark, but so does that mean that what we're seeing, and I want to get to condo stuff too, so I don't want to hit this too long because I know we have a finite amount of time for part one.
Right.
Does that mean when, and I say when because anybody who talks to me know that I believe it's not if we get a hurricane, when we get another Andrew, when we get another direct hit on the southeast side of Florida, that now affects anyone's ability to rebuild after
100%. Houses will be worth land value
because they won't be able to, their insurance isn't going to cover raising the house and rebuilding the structure. So I think that seems like very loaded.
That's an insurance question. It depends on what kind of insurance you have. It depends on how good your insurance is.
Yeah. And historically, who has insurance with holes in it? There are certain communities that are disproportionately affected by the types of policy that they're sold, and they think they're one thing and they really are something else. So I think that's something that I definitely want to. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Maybe we'll hop on the Zoom or something. Now, transitioning into the multifamily stuff, how do you see the 50% rule affecting?
It's the same for them.
So it's the same for a condo.
Same rules.
So how does that? Is that for the building or is that for the unit?
So it's for the building.
So walk me through this. So we have a 10-unit building, just for the sake of numbers. We have 10-unit building that's worth $10 million because each unit is worth $1 million. Does that mean collectively, if these units have all been remodeled more than $5 million, that's 50%, then the whole building needs to be. So that means one unit could throw everything off. Like one guy could just do a $5 million renovation.
One unit could throw things off. I've had some conversations with friends about this. I have one friend who thinks that that will not be a big issue because money will follow money. So, and voters are in condo units. So voters can vote out people that made the rules for the condo problem. So he believes, or does,
The people that made the rules for the 15% rule too,
and all this, that they won't be affected.
So when you say voters, you mean voters in the political sense, not in that condo association sense. I got you.
In the political sense. However, people forget these buildings, they're getting old.
Yeah.
Most of them are not really viable because concrete has a 50-year lifespan. Just hard stop, 50-year lifespan on concrete. So, and that is in perfect conditions. It's not a 50-year lifespan when we have the salty air that exists in South Florida.
Gotcha.
So condos have a multiple faceted problem.
Yeah.
Not only are they going to be confronting the 50% rule, especially when we get a hurricane or something, but they're also going to be confronting the fact that concrete has a 50-year lifespan.
Yeah. So a lot of these buildings are built with materials that's beyond its useful life anyway.
Exactly. I see it in homes when we're remodeling a home who people have just recently bought, that's just recently been brand spanking new remodeled on the outside. We take the wall down, we take the exterior sheetrock off, and the whole block wall falls apart. Because the concrete,
it just ages.
The house is 60 years old. The concrete starts spalling and starts busting and falling apart. And we had to put shores up and rebuild the wall from scratch. So
now is that, to sort of bring it circle back to the single family portion of this, which is going to affect way more middle class South Florida. So that's what you just described is an issue that people may not even know exists until they want to do something else. So it's one of those, I want to fix my electrical box, and then you unscrew the electrical box and the concrete behind the electrical box is crumbling. So now this shows me that is there. And
if you bought a house built before 1970, that's a 50+ year old house.
You need new concrete. And there's just no way around that.
The block is 50 years old. The concrete that was built to put on is 50 years old. If it's near the water, if it's near the beach, it probably hasn't been painted properly.
So it's not
hasn't been maintained properly. It's crumbling on the inside, and it's real easy to put lipstick on that paint and sell it. It's real easy.
Gotcha. So in your view, so what you're seeing now, does that becomes a very big contributor to pricing now. Mm-hmm. So if I have to come buy this property and it's crumbling for whatever reason, whether it's an estate sale or I'm an investor or whatever, now you're essentially putting a floor on what I have to flip it for now for it to be profitable. Because coming in, I know now I'm going to have to spend $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 just to bring it up to code. And if I got to spend that to code, now I can't build the $500,000 house I thought I was going to build. I got to build the $1.5 million house just to make the numbers. And then this is going to get really interesting.
It means there's going to be a unique real estate boom in Florida. And it's going to look crazy and like Wild West type, because you'll have all these sort of nice houses like they have in like Plantation Woods, something like that, built like 1970, on those big lots. They look really nice, but they're 65 years old.
They're zombie houses. They're on the inside, they're crumpled.
You buy one of these houses for $800,000 or $1.2 million. And you go to remodel your bathroom, and it costs them $500,000 to upgrade your house. I've seen it happen. I have a customer in Victoria Park. It was going to be like $70,000. It ended up being $197,000. This was on a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom.
Now, is that something, I know this is a little bit into the weeds, but is crumbling concrete something that can be addressed in portions, or is that like, if I find this is it like termite damage? If I find it in my kitchen, that's something that is probably an issue or indication of a larger issue.
Yeah. If it's on one wall, it's on all the walls, generally. It's like termites. It's like termites have been there for a long time.
Gotcha. So if it's there, it's all over.
It's conceivable that a couple of walls, 2 walls that are not facing the elements, are in fairly good condition. But there's always going to be a wall that's facing the elements that wasn't painted properly, wasn't sealed properly, the air got in there. Once a little bit of water touches that rebar, the rebar starts oxidizing. And in that oxidation, it lets off air. That air that it lets off must escape and cracks and spalls the concrete. And that's what makes it go just like that and crumble. That's why that building, Southside building.
I'd been in Champlain Towers. I'd been there several times. And you could see in the parking lot, you could see like there are several other buildings. Right now, you ride through the parking lot, you're like, get around. Wait a minute, I should park on the street. But that's I feel like that's sort of a confluence of a bunch of really complicated problems. Some are social, just because people bought places and then they skimped on the maintenance on those places. But now, because we're here, it's almost like a lot of this is setting the stage for I often say when it comes to Florida, we're looking at the slow gentrification of the state. And what we're seeing now with the 50% rule, with the aging out of concrete, with what's going on with a lot of these older buildings on the beach, are all things that are going to accelerate that to a very high degree, unless there are some other innovations that significantly lower either construction costs or acquisition, or otherwise incentivize developers to be able to build, call it, $400,000 houses or $300,000 condos, which right now just don't exist. Do you see with a lot of the technology that's coming? So 3D printing is super cool to me. I've been exploring that for a while. I've done a little bit with container homes, but I think 3D printing is sort of where it's going to be, or some variation thereof. Do you see technology being able to address some of that when it comes to affordability? Because I know right now a 3D printed house is not cheaper than a traditional house.
No, so I don't think we should be looking for affordability. I don't think affordability is in the future. I think that there's not much more land. They don't make land in Florida anymore.
Very true.
And this place continues to be one of the most beautiful places to live in the world.
Absolutely.
And the more people that know about it, the more people want to live here.
Yeah. So the price is just going to be the price.
The price is just going to be the price, and it's just going to keep going up. That's what I think. I think, yes, technology will come in, and that technology will fill the gaps in construction labor.
Yeah, but those savings are going to go to the builders.
Right. So those are going to the people who make the technology. It's not going to lessen the value that is created.
Yeah, I got you.
Because the perceived value that will be created will be enough to entice as many people as possible.
Yep.
At the highest price possible.
Yes. And we don't see a lot of incentive from local municipalities to, at least as of yet, to incentivize builders to do anything else other than what they're building.
Well, it doesn't incentivize the municipality to
lower their tax base.
They get more money, they can do more things. And it helps even those that have less in that community, at least for the time being while they're there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of what we're working on, and what I'm very, very much trying to make sure people are educated about, is understanding the value of your property. everyone deserves a trusted real estate resource.
Right.
So if you're gonna sell Big Mama's house, don't sell the $500,000 house for $200,000. Know what's coming. If you know there's a developer coming, know that there's some negotiation that you can do in there, because you can't stop that tsunami of capital that's coming. But understanding sort of the conditions that is coming in make you an educated participant in that process, whether from the buyer or seller perspective. That is a very interesting assessment. So then the next question for you, where are you seeing most of the opportunities for the average investor? Right. So we know the developers are looking at all the buildings, they're looking at the big stuff. So if you're that say a middle market, they're looking to build that first luxury home, so to speak. Where would you see those from the clients that you're working with? Are you seeing those being the luxury flips? Are these buy and hold multifamily opportunities? What are you seeing?
So in my small little bubble of world that I live in, I would say most people are in their forever homes. People are buying, thinking they're going to stay in their forever home. And people that are building to hold, and building to rent. Even very large places. We're going to break ground on a 7,500 square foot place here in Fort Lauderdale. That owner is building to hold. There's another space that's a 6,500 square foot duplex.
It's a big duplex.
Yeah. It's a nice duplex. I'm telling you, it's a luxury duplex in Pompano, like 2 blocks off the beach. And he's buying to hold, to rent. A lot of people are now buying to hold.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because they realize the value, the long-term value of their property.
Yeah, and the migration patterns. The people keep coming, so they're seeing it's almost like the ultra wealthy are coming to the southern tip of Florida, and they're shifting all those other demographics below them further north. So you're seeing a northern pressure from Dade County to Broward County, and from Broward County to Palm Beach County, and from Palm Beach all the way up. So it's a very interesting migration to sort of watch it happen. It's very, very cool. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me. I'll say, yeah. Well, we can keep going. I know we've been at it for a minute, but I appreciate it. But just to sort of we got a little more time. Are there any other things? What's really exciting you right now about when you think about real estate in South Florida? I know you have a unique perspective because you teach it, but you also have people that are coming in and they want to learn it. So when you look at what you do and the range of people that you interact with, what's exciting you now?
What's exciting me is some opportunities that are coming up in AI and real estate, and using AI's capabilities of finding the right perfect lots and the right perfect places. I think that the future really are small groups and small funds that get together to use their smarts to identify niche markets and just dominate those markets. Be it in small development or land development, land prep development. I think those are big business. I think anyone in land prep development right now, they're getting it shovel ready, and then shovel ready lots, and then selling them. I think those will do well. And I also think people who are thinking strategically about area codes and the 50%. Because there are whole area codes, whole neighborhoods that in theory should be demolished.
Gotcha.
And over the next 10 years, no house in that place will exist the way it is. So I think all this changed July 31st when the new FEMA firm panels came out. And the firm, since our Florida insurance rate. Firm panel, which is the squares, they separate all of Florida by, is called Florida Insurance Rate Map. So the insurance people create these rate maps. And they did this to get more insurance money and to disqualify whole swaths of neighborhoods
From being able to get in.
from being able to get insurance. Or that insurance is so high they can't afford it.
Yeah.
So I think the future here in Florida over the next 10 years is going to be so much rebuild opportunity and so much real construction that happens. And I believe the new Florida home will develop. Meaning there's a model of home that sits 8 or 9 feet above the ground that are homes like they build in Sarasota now, right off on the beach where you have to have your garage under your house.
Yeah.
And I think that will be the model for the South Florida home for the next 50 years. Because everything is raising.
Yep.
Like 20 years ago when they told us about the sea level rising.
Yeah.
It's coming. 40 years ago, it's coming. Well, now they're making the laws necessary for the homes that will be built for that.
So it's looking way more like the homes that were built on stilts than some of these other places.
Yes. They're going to be coolly designed homes with garages underneath. That allow you to live above. And they'll have 35-foot ceilings. And we'll raise the ceiling to 45 feet, so you have a third floor. Because right now, the ceiling in most of Florida is 35 feet.
Gotcha.
For a residential home.
That's interesting. So in theory, and I'm not going to share this with everybody, you got my wheels turning here. So we tease you with it. We're not going to talk about all this on camera. Finding neighborhoods where there has been little development, but they're older neighborhoods. So you're, hey, everything in this XYZ zip code was built between 50 and 65. But of these 50 houses, only 2 of them have been remodeled.
Right.
Those are places where theoretically they're already seeing those issues when it comes to concrete.
And all of them will disappear.
Because they just won't, the structural integrity of the concrete won't allow them to exist for another 20.
And the new FEMA rule won't allow it to happen.
Yeah, they're not if they do anything.
Right.
So, and if we get a hurricane, then it's just, they'll be like the little tents. They'll just blow over.
Right. And then it would be a nearly $2 million neighborhood. Because they all have big lots.
You heard it here first. I just want to put that out there. Put y'all in, Matthias told y'all.
It's happening. It's going to happen. And I think real estate will be so exciting because there'll be so many sales.
Yeah.
So much exchange of property happening over the next 10 years, I think. You have aging baby boomers getting old. You have a group of people that are dying, leaving homes to people who can't now remodel them because they need to be.
And educating them on that, because
they don't know that.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad we touched on it. So enforcement. What happens if I have a $500,000 house and my GC does $300,000 worth of work on it and doesn't tell me about the 50% rule?
He can't, because he'll get a permit, and once he gets that permit, and when they go the first round of checks, they'll say, this hits the 50% rule. Please submit either your new appraisal, because what you can do, I didn't tell you, was you can get the property reappraised after you buy it. Okay, I know this because it's what we had to do in Miami. So they had put the value at like $600,000 or $500,000. So he needed the value to be higher so that he could spend more money on the remodel. So you can
the value of the house,
of the structure. Yes. So you can do that by getting a private appraisal after you purchase. So you can get a private appraisal after you purchase, which will raise the value of the structure. So you tell the city, hey, look, my structure is not worth $500,000 like you assessed it. It's really worth $900,000. At that point, then they put $900,000 under your assessment.
Gotcha. Yeah, of course, there's more money for that.
Right.
But now you got $450.
You got $450 that you can spend without having to demolish it.
So you have an incentive to get higher when you're looking at remodels. for higher appraisals, because that higher appraisal gives you more money to work with on the remodel, versus you want to lower assessed value when you want to lower taxes. So it's, that's hard to
catch you from both ends.
And we disputed it first to make it lower, and we got disputed again to make it lower. That's man. That's that I am thinking about all of the communities like Riviera Beach, like Overtown, like here in Cistrone Corridor. There are places in Pompano, that in Deerfield, Delray, a lot of these older, historic, those sleepy towns that are east of 95,
Right.
where easily, 85, 90% of them are homes that have been there, like it's sort of what you allude to, multi-generational
and residential. Now, 50% concrete applies to a commercial building too. You have these little shopping centers, these little strip centers that are east of 95, that have these little 5 or 6 shops.
Yes.
When those get remodeled, they too are subject to the 50% rule. This is everything. This is everything.
So this is, again, you got my wheels turning here. I'm not gonna give you everything, but see, me with Matthias, this is. So if you have a plaza, for example, that has been doing work over, say, the last 2 years, or it would just recently change hands, and the owner, before they sold it, did a bunch of work. So now you may have a owner who owns it now who's in a position where he can't do any work because the 50% rule has already put him in a place where if he does anything, he has to raise the whole.
Very possible.
So then he starts losing tenants because he can't do the changes, and now he's got to sell it cheap.
See, and now he's got to put something new there.
Or he's got to sell it to somebody else to put something new there, because they can then.
And that's when, at that point, you need to change the zoning so we can make it worthwhile to purchase.
Gotcha.
Because then at that point, you have to make it, you just see more mixed use spaces.
Yeah, that's what I think we're headed towards.
Because you need more mixed use spaces. You need a place where you can put commercial and some residential so you can gain the revenue necessary to make it possible to build there.
Yeah. It's self-storage and restaurant, that mixed use. I think that's
put all the parking underneath.
Yeah, because you got to renew. That's man, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a huge. Well, you think now? Here's my next question for you. This applies nationwide, correct? Or is this?
Yes, this is nationwide.
So
we know. I know about it in Florida and how it affects Florida. Because I look at the firm panels.
Yeah, just for Florida. Yeah, but that wouldn't mean just sort of extrapolate that. We're looking at least everyone on the coast. Is going to have those issues. So if you look at everybody on the Gulf Coast, it definitely is going to have those issues up into the Northeast. So these are all any place where you're looking at older historic communities that are dealing with just the shelf life or the life of concrete and the erosion of salt water just sort of beating up on the property that is that old. That's just a recipe for renovation now. I would say a recipe for disaster, but they're going to have to make those changes. And, the things that would possibly accelerate that are going to be natural disasters or tornadoes or hurricanes or whatever, because that's the stuff that's going to create the scenarios where you now need to do some renovation.
Exactly.
So that would be we're going to do a lot more on that. We got to do a panel or something, because I think that's going to be a big issue for agents to be able to educate clients on.
It's going to be for the agent, but the agent who knows his territory can make it. As an agent who knows neighborhoods and can look at the firm panels and go, you know what? All these neighborhoods are like this, all sold for this amount. There's a swath of opportunity.
Yeah. Now, where can people get those firm panels? Just on the FEMA website?
Yeah, you can go to the FEMA website. If you text me, I'll send it to you. Yeah. I'll send it to you today.
Yes. Well, you know, I was going to ask.
I was actually on my phone. I have it as the same star, because every time someone calls me, I want to remodel my house. The first thing I do is look at the firm paddle to see what their elevation is and ask them, do you have an elevation certificate?
Yeah, there you go.
Because that's going to determine if you can even do a remodel at all.
Yeah, there you go.
And if you want to add an addition, what that addition can even look like. Because we're faced with on this house doing an addition at 8 feet, at 7 feet, and the rest of the house at 4. But that's not going to work.
And we can put that link in the show notes. So in the description when this goes up on YouTube, we can have the link there. And I know there's a couple places here on Sistro, some of the newer buildings, so you can see.
Yeah.
Because I've been at one of them that have a patio. Me and my wife are sitting on the patio, and I thought about you because I realized how high we were there. Well, everybody else while we were eating, like it's kind of high up here.
Yeah. And anyone, let's say you're in one of those neighborhoods, right? And I know this because we're doing this right now. So we have to bring in so much dirt on this lot. We brought in 200 yards of dirt to raise this house up. Now this house is so much higher than the neighbors' houses. Whenever it rains, the water goes straight into the neighbor's house. If you're in a neighborhood and this starts happening,
yeah,
and you do one man on one side, another man on another side, you get flooded every time.
Every time. Yeah, just because of the runoff.
Because of the runoff. And it makes it worse every time someone does it. So it's a problem that whose solution creates the next problem for the next people, for their neighbors. Because your home is now 4 feet higher than your neighbor's house. And that roars all the water.
Yeah. And they don't have the ability to, there's pooling in the street, in the backyard.
See, now you got floods there. Flood insurance goes up, and that place floods. Now you got to bring your house up.
Wow. So that's a question, though. I think that becomes a very good question for people with their insurance policies,
right?
To say, because I've had clients, as someone who wants a house on the beach, I want to buy a house on the beach. I have the climate change conversation a lot I have other clients who are looking for stuff on the beach and say, hey, so why would you buy on the beach knowing that the ocean is going to take it back eventually? And their response is, well, as long as I can get insurance on it and I can build it. Why? Because I might get it for 2 years, I might get it for 20, I might get it for 40, but whenever it does go away, I file a claim and I go build somewhere else. A very good question, and you sort of alluded to this earlier in our conversation. If you're a homeowner now and you're finding out about the 50% rule, would be to call up your insurance provider and say, hey, if I have to rebuild, does my policy cover raising my house to the new level, or does it just cover my house? Because, insurance companies are really clever in the way that they'll word your coverage. So finding out whether you have the necessary coverage to even rebuild if you want to, because there may be people in a lot of these communities that want to rebuild and don't have policies that will allow them to rebuild, and they don't even know that. And we're in the middle of hurricane season now, so it'd probably be really hard to change any policy you got today. But that's you're right. I think we're going to see a lot of interesting different business models start to sort of come out of a lot of this.
There's going to be so much opportunity, like everywhere.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that it creates so much. The solutions create problems that need solutions, and create more problems that need more solutions.
And it forces everybody into compliance.
Literally.
Well, if the first person does it, everybody's got to follow.
I'm very curious to see how some of our local commissioners, et cetera, start to have those conversations, because I think that's what we're going to see in a lot of communities where there are these one-off luxury builds. As the problem that you just articulated becomes more and more prevalent, hey, these guys just built this big, beautiful house over here, but now half the street floods. whose fault is that?
It's your fault. Your house is too low.
There you go. And that's the thing, because that's what they're going to ask. So it's
I just live in house according to the law. You built yours according to the law way back in 1970.
So I think it's going to be very, very. You're right. I think it creates a bunch of opportunities, which create a bunch of more problems, which create a bunch of opportunities, and that's where entrepreneurs thrive. That's because we're solution driven people. So, and because it's in the real estate space, which is the space that is going to be hot in South Florida for a very long time, I think there's some really good stuff there. Awesome. I'm really. This was dope. This was a very exciting. We're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff offline, y'all. Y'all have no idea. If you know me, call me. This is yeah. And then the applications of AI for stuff like this, being able to analyze those large data sets,
Right.
I think you're exactly right. There's gonna be some really cool stuff at all price points. I don't know about I think when you say affordable now, at least for the foreseeable future, you're talking about rentals. You're not talking about ownership, at least in between Dade and Broward County. But in the long term, I think there's going to be some really interesting opportunities that are at all those price points, as people just get clear on what's going on. Because I think a lot of people just don't know.
They're not. A lot of $800,000 houses that were worth $400,000 before the pandemic, that are now costing $800,000, that are about 45 years old, that people are buying. I think they're basically buying land value houses, and they don't even know anything about it. They're thinking they're buying their forever homes,
and they can't. Like the life of concrete is something that you would think would be a much bigger issue. Nobody's talking about that. Like, my mind is like still stuck on it.
That's it.
You think I'm thinking about my grandfather's house. I'm thinking about a bunch of other houses that I've been going in my whole life that were here before I got here. So I'm like, look at those houses. That's a very. Now I guess another good question here, and then we can wrap up. But the new concrete, so concrete that is being used today, does it share that same shelf life, or do we have innovations in concrete?
Well, you can install longer lasting concrete. You can use fiberglass rebar now. That'll add another 20, 30 years on your concrete. It's so much more expensive now to do that.
No.
You can add additives that make your concrete stronger and that last longer, just like they did when they built the pyramids and the Colosseum and those structures that still exist today.
But they were mixed with in a different way.
Their concrete was much stronger.
Gotcha.
It was made completely different for the different kind of mixture. The concrete that is in all of these spec homes is a 2,500 PSI cheap concrete, being that when our homes popped out 50 houses at once in 1950, 60 houses at once, that's not a high quality, expensive concrete.
High volume.
They're high volume concrete.
Gotcha.
And a lot of these areas is just high volume concrete. This is not high quality concrete.
That is a huge. You heard it first, y'all. That's a man. That's a lot. Okay. All right. We are going to do a part 2 on this. We are going to do a part. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I'm glad we were able to share about your journey. I'm always inspired, between you and Sam. So we got to get your brother here to talk about his journey too, man. But you guys do amazing stuff. Matt Better is awesome. Where can people find you? Your social media?
People can find me at Matt Beth Construction on Instagram, or LinkedIn, Matthias Williams, or just mattbeth.com. That's where we are.
And we'll put all of that.
BETH.
We'll put all of that in the description. So in the show notes, you'll be able to get there. Thank you so much, man. And we are definitely going to do this again.
Thank you, man.